getting into this technology, you'll see there's a number of instruments out there, and there's a number of different theories and claims made about from these various companies that put out various instruments. Even though a lot of it is with good intention, a lot of misinformation tends to be shared within the promotional aspects of some of these machines. In this video, I'm going to share information about one of the real common misconceptions that I've seen over the years that relates to the difference between electromagnetic and the RF method that was first used in the 1930s. How this has created a lot of confusion among machines that really operating on a completely different premise and a completely different method than the original machines of the 1930s, which were the ones that were so successful, and those are the ones that solidified the reputation that this technology has today, even though a lot of the current machines operate on a completely different principle. So what I'm talking about is the electromagnetic method versus the original RF method. So with the original technology, there was an RF frequency. The majority of the original frequencies that we have from the lab notes were within the AM broadcast band. They were really closely within that band or right near the AM broadcast band. So I'm talking about the band that AM radios are transmitting on. It's a rather low radio frequency, but it is within the radio frequency spectrum, which as a whole is a much larger spectrum. So this AM broadcast band was very important. In the report, you'll get a lot of details about the original frequencies, where they were at, how the RF carrier is in differentiation with the original RF frequencies. So some of the original machines actually ran an RF frequency that was then pulsed versus the RF carrier method, which is where there's a fixed RF carrier and then a very specific pulse being used. So the report covers a lot of the details on that. This is all in contrast to a new method that was developed much more recently as far as the history goes, where instead of an RF carrier, in order to light a plasma tube, a high voltage electromagnetic effect is utilized. So with the high voltage electromagnetic effect, it still lights the plasma tube, but instead of a high frequency, it's just using a high voltage to light the tube, and then that EMF, that high voltage EMF, is then carrying a low frequency within that EM field, and that's what is delivering the frequencies where you want them to go. It's a very different effect, and as you may be seeing around, there's a lot of concern about electromagnetic fields these days with the 5G thing coming our way. There's a lot of concern and a lot of opposition to more and more technology being developed that's creating all these fields around, and plus we've got house wiring that all our appliances are using these 60 cycle pulses, which is the way the electricity is carried to you through the municipal power system. And so these fields have been discovered, especially when you get into high voltages, to potentially be damaging, and that's why there's a lot of concern over electromagnetic fields. Now, if you look at the original technology, it was actually a very low electromagnetic field, but the radio frequency was actually doing the carrying of the frequencies. And that's in contrast to this newer electromagnetic method, where it's a high voltage electromagnetic field that carries those frequencies. And this is all measurable, so there's no real question about which method is being used on which machines. But this electromagnetic method is a method that for years I have been putting out my feeling about this is that these electromagnetic fields, a lot of individuals are very hypersensitive to this, and I believe that, and this is just my opinion, you know, so I'm expressing this here on this video, and you can do with it as you will, but I believe that these high voltage electromagnetic fields, which some of these instruments are using, actually are triggering a stronger Hertz reaction than the radio frequency. And a lot of the companies that are putting out these instruments are actually putting out this negative press about the original radio frequency method, even though we know that that worked because that's where the history was. And back in the 1940s, when the original 1930s machines were being used by the select few that got a hold of them, that's where the reputation of this technology really got its grip. And that's why so many people are still looking for this stuff. It's that original method, not this high voltage electromagnetic effect, which is so common in a number of the machines that you'll see out there. So it's important to know what you're looking at, which method the machine you're looking at is using, because a lot of the companies are just not disclosing that kind of information. In the report that I want to give you access to, you're going to get all this information that I just been talking about. You're also going to get information about the square wave harmonics, as opposed to this like concept that, oh, we have a proprietary waveform, which some companies are putting out. And really what it comes down to is that when you use this electromagnetic method, it morphs the square wave to the point where the waveform doesn't look the same. And there's some companies out there claiming that this is our proprietary waveform, but really it's just this electromagnetic effect just does change the waveform. That's covered, as well as the information about the plasma tube and the inverse square law. That's a really important factor when you're looking at these devices. You'll get an overview of that. And you know, some of this stuff might be an overview for you. You might be familiar with some of this stuff, but this is still a great report to, you know, just cover some of these bases, because this stuff is really important when understanding this technology. Conduction versus induction. Conduction is like direct contact. Induction is what the effect that's going to be used anytime there's a plasma tube involved. And so it's important to understand how those effects work in different situations, depending on whether it's an RF type of plasma tube or a high voltage electromagnetic effect, because they do work differently. The report has a lot of information, but you know, I just wanted to make sure I covered the basics here in this video, so you could, you know, get an overview on what to expect, and you can use the button or the link on this page or post and get access to this report right away. Just go ahead and follow the either click the button or link on this post or on this page, and you'll be able to get access to this right away. And I will see you on the inside. And thanks so much for watching this video.